right, boys and girls, we are here looking at this paper that says at the top, finding part of a whole or set experience. And while we're working today, I want you to remember that we've already talked about this action when we were talking about decimals. And so before we get started, I'm going to remind myself that when we're finding part of a whole or set, we are thinking about the action multiply, because we don't want the whole piece, we want part of that piece. And we should be thinking in our head, part of a whole means multiply. Let's look at the story here about the Tran family. It says the Tran family bought a package of 12 Twizzlers. They ate 2/3 of the Twizzlers. How many Twizzlers did the Tran family eat? So the first thing I want to think about is who's in the problem and what do they have? Well, we know we have the Tran family and they have a package of 12 Twizzlers. So I'm going to box that in. They have a package of 12 Twizzlers. They ate 2/3 of the Twizzlers. So they ate 2/3 of the Twizzlers. So right now in my head I'm thinking, did they eat all of the Twizzlers? No. It wants us to find out how many Twizzlers did the Tran family eat. So our question is, how many Twizzlers did the Tran family eat? And so at this time I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to label some information here in this box. So we have, what we know is that we have the Tran family ate 2/3 group of the 12 Twizzlers. So did they eat all of them? No, they ate 2/3. So our job when we're trying to find part of a whole or part of a whole set is to figure out exactly what number that is. I know many boys and girls think, well, they gave us the answer 2/3, but that's not what we're wanting to find. We're wanting to find how many Twizzlers were eaten. So how many were eaten is represented by 2/3. That's going to be our part. What is our whole group? Our whole group is 12. And anytime we're thinking about part of a whole, we want to multiply to find that answer. So before I get started with my picture representation, we're going to make a quick estimate. So if I'm estimating, I know quickly that I could not have more than 12 eaten. So I know that my answer should be less than 12. And if I think about my fraction, 2/3, well, I know 2/3 is more than half. And more than half, well, half of 12 would be 6. So we know that our answer has to be a little more than 6. All right, so now that I have my pieces labeled and my information estimated, I'm going to look at my picture model. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to write a few notes out here. I want to think about 2/3 of the group. And I want to relate that quickly to multiplication. So I'm going to think about my denominator of 3. 3 times what will give me the total 12. And when I answer that, I should get the number 4. So what does that mean? That means that if I have the whole group of 12, and we're going to outline the whole group of 12, This would be my whole. I want 3 groups. So I'm going to get 3 groups, and 4 will be in each group. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will be a group. 1, 2, 3, 4 will be a group. And 1, 2, 3, 4 will be a group. Now that I've quickly got my groups organized, I'm going to label them. This would be 1/3 of the group, this would be 2/3 of the group, and this would be 3/3 of the group. We want to know 2/3 were eaten, so that would be all of these Twizzlers in this group and all the Twizzlers in this group. So that would be 4 plus 4, which would give me a total of 8 Twizzlers. And when I quickly go back to my estimate, we know that 8 is less than 12. That gets a thumbs up. And we know 8 is a little more than 6, which is what we predicted. Perfect. The next thing that I want to do is identify the action. So again, we're talking about part of the whole. Part of the whole. Group of 12. So that's 2/3 part of 12. And 2/3 times the number 12. Again, when we go back and think about making this a little more balanced without changing the value of the number 12, we want to make a fraction bar and put the number 1 underneath. That doesn't change the value, but it does make it feel more balanced so that we can quickly multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator to get our answer. So 2 groups of 12 is going to give me the answer 24, and 3 times 1 is going to give me the answer 3. Well, now I have an improper fraction, and anytime I have an improper fraction, I want to think about dividing that into groups. I want to simplify it into a mixed number. So 24 divided by the number 3 is going to give me 8. So this math matches my picture model, and it makes sense because the number 8 is less than 12 but more than 6. So now I want you to turn over to the back of this paper and let's look at our number line. Let's carry over a couple of pieces of information from the front. What is it that we're looking for? We're finding 2/3 of the group of 12. And anytime you think about the number 2/3 of 12, I want you to think about we're finding part of the whole. And anytime we're finding part of the whole, we want to multiply. So when we set up our number line, it's going to look a little bit different than when we were joining equal sets. We want to identify the whole group that we're talking about. Well, our whole group is 12, so I'm going to circle the number 12, and I'm going to very lightly just outline the whole group. Now, we don't want the whole group of 12, we only want part of that group. So, just like our picture from the front, we're going to think about dividing this group of 12 into 3 equal groups. So we're going to put this into 3 equal groups, which would be 4 in each group. And once I've made those hash marks, I can connect them at the top so that I have these little candy bar pieces, and I can label each candy bar. Okay, so this would be 1/3 of the group, 2/3 of the group and 3/3 of the group. And we want 2/3 of the Twizzlers were eaten. So that would be all of these and all of these. And when I get to my answer is 8. It's very clear. So one more thing I want you to think about is your EFT. How can our EFT also help us? Well, we know our EFT is made up of a part and a total. And if we're thinking about the part and the total, 2 being the part and 3 being the total, well, we don't have 3 here, we have 12. So we need to extend our total to get to the number 12. So 3, 6, 9, 12. And if I extend my numerator just like we've extended our total and count by 2's, 2, 4, 6, 8, when I have a total of 12, the piece that goes with the number 12 is 8. That would be the part. So this is just another way to check our math and make sure that we are thinking correctly. Remember, boys and girls, if you use the EFT, it's not 8/12. You have to think about separating it and making it part of the total amount. So when we have 12 Twizzlers, we have 8 that is our answer. So quickly, let's just wrap this up before we reflect on our actions here. We know that the Tran family bought a package of 12 Twizzlers. They ate 2/3 group of the Twizzlers. The Tran family ate 2/3 group of the 12 Twizzlers. And when you find 2/3 of 12, the product is 8. So right now, I want you to do some reflecting. I want you to think about our representation. I want you to think about our number line. And I even want you to go back and think about our EFT. What are some things that you notice that are alike? You should be able to give me at least 2 pieces of information.